powered by Omen HyperX here for the final game of the first series here today. MDK obviously taking game number 1, but PSG looking a lot stronger in game number 2, and I have to call out Azhi. I feel like his Gnar game was so impressive in game number 2. He was in the right place at the right time. He's moving around the map well. Really did handle the pressure well, when they were down in this series. But of course, for MDK, they talked about it on the desk. This is 4 rookies and Elyoya. Yeah. It's a lot of pressure for yourselves. Yes, it is nice to play at home and there is some comfort there, but there's also the pressure to then perform in front of that crowd to really give a good showing to your fans, and that's something that they're going to have to battle against.
Absolutely. They're back on the blue side, and Aurora was left open. They instantly lock it. They had been the ones banning out Aurora, so that was the plan they have going into this last game. Probably going to be a Myrwn Aurora, but we don't know for sure.
Does mean, though, Skarner is up and available. Remember, when it was PSG on the blue side last game, MDK banned Skarner on red to make sure they didn't give that away. So this would be a potentially really big power pick here for PSG, but they're thinking through, do we actually want this? Are we okay going towards this? Do we want to go something else? And they are going to lock in that Skarner. So some big power picks traded back and forth. I would expect this to be an Aurora top, but it can be Aurora mid as well. That is definitely flexible.
Man, I definitely have some qualms with PSG and holding the same 3 bans throughout the entire series, especially trying to inform with the way the last couple games have gone. I think you should be really okay giving Myrwn another Renekton or Cassante type champion, just with the way that they've been able to play around side lanes and start fights on their own terms. But they stick with the same bans throughout all 3 games of the series, and they do have very comfortable champions for themselves in the MF and the Skarner.
And it's hard to deny. You can't say that they couldn't have won game 1 because of the draft or anything like that.
That's true.
So right, there obviously are mistakes that are being made by both teams, nerves being shown, whatever you want to say, and both teams are going to look towards that and say, you know what, we just need to play cleaner. We know we can play better. Elyoya, he is experienced, and it's not like him to make a mistake like he had in last game. Forgot to buy his jungle item. Obviously, that didn't end up really being a big factor because he then was able to recover. He got first blood. There's all these things that were working well. But both teams, I think, are going to be confident with their read thus far. Supa going to be locking in the Ezreal once again, and Elyoya will go to the Jarvan here. So looking for that MF. The MF, we saw Betty running for his life last game. It's going to be more of that this game, where Aurora has great pick, Jarvan has great pick. There's so much backline access. You can get Cataclysm with the Ezreal ult reaching you in that backline. That is terrifying. But I will say, Orianna is one of those picks that really can punish overcommitment to one target. But it is going to be the LeBlanc that was banned out last game. So Maple very clearly has a different read than I think a lot of people thought was going to be the read coming in. There was so much talk about Orianna, Syndra are going to be the 2 blind picks in mid lane that everyone's going to be looking towards. Yone, obviously, if you're looking for a melee physical damage carry, would be really, really popular. Instead, he's going towards Akali, he's going towards Ahri, he's going towards LeBlanc. He's playing these really aggressive, high barrier to execution type comps. And we have to see what he can get done, because Skarner is not exactly an early game powerhouse by any means. It's more of a scaling jungler. And if you don't have that really strong pairing and LeBlanc can't be bullying lane and making things happen, often whatever the enemy mid laner is going to get more value.
It absolutely can, but I will say Maple wants to have the game in his hands. That's just how they've found the success that they have found so far at the play-in stage. The very first game he played, he was Tristana. They fell behind. It felt like he couldn't do anything. Then he goes 3 straight Akali games, wins 2 of them, tries a bit too hard to win the 3rd one with his overextension here in game 1 of this series. Then so many clutch charms at the end of the last game, and now again on LeBlanc. So it's to me, it's about him just wanting to have the playmaking agency, even if I think it's incredibly risky to pick LeBlanc like this.
Yeah, absolutely.
With so many champs still yet to be picked. We don't even, it's essentially a blind LeBlanc pick, and Fresskowy can play anything into it.
I will say, though, no point in click CC on MDK just yet, right? So, there is bans towards some of the supports. They're going to take away the Leona, very likely here. It's a good pairing with the MF, and again, talked about it last game. A bit of a denial pick as well, because that's something that stops the MF bullet time so well. And it does mean less point and click CC onto Maple. I wonder what they're going to draft for, because if you have no point and click CC, LeBlanc really can run over your team. It can be so frustrating when you scale later into the game, your cooldowns get low, you distort forward, QRQ, you're just poking people out non-stop, and it can be really, really frustrating.
Well, there's no Nautilus ban. Support Maokai seems a little too bold. They end up locking in the Alistar. It's close to being point and click with the headbutt pulverize combo onto the LeBlanc.
Yeah, I mean, if you can get that, something like a Q flash to set it up can be pretty strong. If you do go for a max range, WQ, well, he can just distort back, and often can respond to that. So we'll see.
Another Vex.
Vex is a great response. It did not work out for Quid whatsoever, but this is really considered a strong counter pick. You have the Fear, you have the Lockdown. LeBlanc goes forward if your passive is ready. You just pop the W, that shield, and you get that AoE Fear immediately down on the LeBlanc. This is the kind of pick that you need to then get that set up, because now all of a sudden, if you go in, you get that Fear, well, the combo is coming through from Alistar. You're getting Flag and Drag knocked up. You're getting burst down 100-0. Nasus would be spicy, but I don't think we're going to get it. We'll have to wait and see what the lock-in is going to be.
It's Corki.
No, not locked in. Whoa, okay.
Yeah, it's Corki. It's probably Corki top for Azhi.
Yeah.
Range into the Aurora to try and not get bullied out on a melee top laner.
I mean, he already brought out the Vayne, so we know that he has the confidence to do this kind of stuff. This is a guy who is known in the PCS for being a bit of a crazy player. He'll pick whatever he can think. He'll play all kinds of different range carries in solo queue and practice all these different wild picks. So he's a little bit like Myrwn in that way. So we'll see if Azhi can pilot this well. I'm going to be honest, I have no idea how this matchup goes. Aurora versus Corki is not something I have actually watched. I'm assuming that they are just going to be more fighting for the wave, and Corki is just going to look to push and scale and kind of try to not really necessarily interact with Aurora, who does have a lot of mobility and a lot of ability to actually dodge out from the Floss Bombs, which is where so much of your early power is, because you have the W for the Invis, you can hop away from that. The weirding as well jumps you back, you can dodge Floss Bombs with that. So I think Corki would struggle in the fights, but if Azhi can just push, can just use that to be able to kind of find a way to scale.
Playing what the latest flavor of the patch is. It's going to be a fascinating game, because to me, the Aurora Vex is a double AP burst combo, which unless you win the game by a lot, I've seen fall flat on its face so many times, because any little bit of magic resist just doubles up your ability to counter both of those champions. So I think MDK is being really bold with these picks. It's not like Myrwn and Fresskowy have had dominant series. They've been generally behind in both games, and it's been the mad bot lane that has been able to carry them to victory, so they need to perform.
Absolutely. I mean, even when you look back to last series, it was about these great early game performances from Elyoya on the Nidalee. It was about Supa on the Jinx playing so well. Alvaro has been so good through all the games for the team. He really has been a consistent standout. So we'll see if Myrwn and Fresskowy can really step up and help to get their team over the finish line. I gotta say though, Betty is just gonna have a nightmare game, and maybe this Corki is kind of unironically a little bit of that backup AD carry, where if you're saying, Betty, they're gonna be putting everything in on him. If you overcommit onto Betty and Corki is just sitting there free firing, then all of a sudden things could look pretty rough for you.
It's true. Betty wishes he could take 2 flashes. I like that he's picked Barrier instead of Cleanse, just because he knows if he gets
You can't cleanse death, Jatt.
Exactly. There's just going to be so much unavoidable damage that goes on to Betty throughout the majority of this game.
This is a lot of the early game power though here. You pop the E, you just walk forward, especially with Electrocute, he's even able to proc that there over onto Myrwn. So did get a really good trade, already forcing out that first potion here, and it's not going to get Myrwn back to full. Of course, there is some sustain in the kit here. If you're able to connect with those spells, you're going to be getting a little bit of passive sustain.
So let's talk about this mid lane matchup, because we saw this yesterday. We saw Quid play Vex. We saw Quid die 9 times on Vex.
We did see that.
And
I wish I hadn't, but I did.
And we saw them lose. But I will say it is a traditional pick into LeBlanc, partially because later in the game, if anyone lands CC on LeBlanc...
Oh, look at Azhi. That trade is massive. I don't think he expected him to just go Valkyrie level 2, but go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, definitely not. But basically, if you land the CC on LeBlanc, you land the Vexar, a lot of times you'll be able to follow through whatever dash LeBlanc has away and get the one-shot. It failed yesterday, in part because Quid played poorly, but also because he just fell so far behind. He got ganked twice early game, and then he was a 0-8 Vex flying in without items. There's an invade, though, going down to this Jarvan.
Yeah, Elyoya is going to get the bad news, or perhaps going to be able to stop whatever is going on. JunJia, they're thinking about a dive here, and Myrwn, he is level 2 here. Myrwn in a lot of trouble. We'll see if he can outplay this. Azhi trying to close in. They flash in. They stun him against the wall. Beautifully played by JunJia. He is going to go down for it, but they are denying quite a bit of these minions here. We'll see how much Quid is lost. They did lose a cannon. He's going to lose at least 2 range, so I definitely call worth on that, especially because Corki got first blood. Now down on the bot side. Woody going to get knocked back there. Supa trying to get a bit of a trade to even the score here on that bot side. PSG really happy about this. I mean, this is now a recall with just that Dark Seal bought up for Myrwn, and Azhi is going to have probably a pretty big buy. He's going towards the
Wow.
Hex Shrinker, which I think makes a lot of sense. You called it out. You're double AP burst champions.
I wouldn't even be surprised if Maple builds a Verdant Barrier at some point, even though it's a little weird on the LeBlanc. Just like one little magic resist item for everyone nerfs the majority of MDK's team comp. And that early gank, as long as JunJia doesn't fall too far behind and get counter jungled by Elyoya, that's going to be worth it. But he does lose a ton off of that. He died after skipping multiple camps, all for his top laner to get the kill.
Yep, and that's that trade-off, right? You know, you're sometimes sacrificing your game as a jungler, and then the person that you're sacrificing your game for has to make that worthwhile. They have to then play with that advantage and really pay it off. And if he can, then hey, it's going to be really worth it. Maple gives the information over to JunJia that Elyoya is going to be taking away those Raptors. He, of course, is on that bot side taking the scuttle, and he does have his Gromp to go back towards MDK. Pretty healthy on the bot side, so there's likely not a look for a dive, but he can come and take away one camp of his own. So JunJia doing just fine here.
Really
and
nice.
If Alvaro gets too low, there's maybe some sort of a look.
If he can secure these Kruggies
nice
and
little
then
trade.
back away, that's fantastic for him.
Yeah, this is actually getting a bit dicey. As Woody's
really
going to flash
going for
forward, does trade flashes. Alvaro, really quick response. If he didn't actually get his flash off in response there, I think he likely dies because JunJia could have come around from the side and actually scooped him up with the E into the wall. So Woody looking for the aggressive play. PSG playing with confidence so far in this game number 3, but Alvaro's mechanics equal to the task. Very fast flash there to react.
This whole series has been a roller coaster. Game 1 was very back and forth.
Boom, by the way. I'm not sure how his...
He doesn't have TP either.
I'm not sure how this state in top lane got so bad, because he is dead. Myrwn all of a sudden has, you know, he has a worse buy, but he has a much better lane state. Betty gets caught, and Betty is in some trouble. Going to be having to use the barrier there. Hits him with a thumbs up. Unfortunately, Alvaro didn't have that flash. He couldn't actually flash in to force out that summoner himself, but still, nice play by Supa. They had him warded out. They do punish on the recall here.
Oh, we see a Woody gank up top lane. He's not spotted yet. Myrwn does have flash, but he's not going to expect him Leona to be here.
Yeah, you would not expect him to be behind you. Use the Hex Flash, and now he shows up. Myrwn potentially in some trouble. Elyoya going to try to get up here, trying to buy some time.
He's 6.
Does have the ulti, goes over the wall, but JunJia is there and waiting. Slams him into the wall. Nice attempt at escape from Myrwn, but it doesn't matter. PSG, bring the extra men.
Oh, that first pick, Aurora, is getting punished so hard. He burns everything and still dies. It all starts with Woody, but then just really, I'd say, fortuitous positioning by PSG, covering every possible escape route, hitting level 6 and alt dashing over that wall to flash. You're going to feel so clever pulling that off until the Skarner is actually waiting there. That's incredible.
I mean, that's frustrating. There's just nothing else he really could have done. You know, this is great pathing from Woody. Used the Hex Flash to get into the pit and then went all the way around him. Really clever play on that vision. And then JunJia, yeah, I think, you know, maybe a little bit of fortuitous positioning, maybe a little bit of anticipation on where he could go.
Or they're just geniuses, you know?
But either way, it works out for him. And now it is going to be Myrwn down on the bot side, laning against Maple here. Well, Elyoya still farming very well. Obviously has that slight gold lead over to himself. It does take 3 Void Grubs. JunJia and Maple looking to punish Myrwn once again. They know he has no summoners, but Alvaro is here. Now they see him, and they are going to call off the dive.
Nice. Being able to steer on Skarner definitely saves them from inting under the turret mercilessly. I think they've done enough so far to put Myrwn down, and they do need to turn their attention elsewhere. They'd like to be able to start out this Drake, but they do not actually have a numbers advantage, so they have to play carefully here.
Yeah, Supa in a lot of trouble. Azhi gonna flash forward, and you have to think he's got it with the big one. He does. Nails him with it. Gets the solo kill in the top lane. The Corki is paying off big.
It's looking incredible so far. Nerfs be damned, 42% solo queue win rate be damned. Pro Play is a different beast. He gets the early game shove into the dive. They return the kill, and then with the way MDK has been playing this series, needing Supa and Alvaro to carry for them to win, having the Ezreal get solo killed by the Corki this early on in the game really limits their options.
I mean, Corki is going to be really problematic here later on, and let's watch this one more time. Azhi finds the angle, had a 2-level advantage, and Supa messed with the wrong Corki.
I mean, he electrocutes, he lands on top of him, he just Foss bombs on top of him. The true skill shot he landed was the last rocket. Everything else was really just point and click. He knew he was stronger and just simplified the game by getting right on his face.
Yeah, I mean, it's just an overextension from Supa. He's a little bit too far up, and Azhi knew his power at that point of the game, had the 2-level advantage. He says, you know what, you messed up, I'm going to go for it. is rewarded with the kill and does have that 2-kill lead here. Up 700 gold, is the biggest advantage in the game by a pretty significant margin. And Corki, as we know, is a pretty big late game beast. Of course, there have been nerfs, but still, Corki still does what Corki does, even if it is a little bit weaker than before.
That's one of those things with these champion nerfs, as Myrwn is thinking about getting a pick onto Betty. It's one of those things with those champion nerfs. Once you get a few early kills and you're kind of in the moment, you end up not feeling the nerfs. The nerfs are more felt in the games where you can never get off the ground.
Exactly, exactly. You know, the 700 gold lead he has is going to add more damage than the nerfs took away, right? So it's exactly what you're saying. You know, he's already in that good spot, so it's not going to be too big of a deal here. But at the same time, the game very, very close. Only a couple hundred gold here separating the two teams. And we did have all three grubs going the way of MDK. Elyoya off to a pretty solid start here, and Fresskowy has been laning well against Maple.
And for as much as we've talked up, as Myrwn just takes a bunch of damage on the shirt, as much as we've talked up PSG in this early game, this has been an incredibly up and down series. You really never know where it's going to turn next, and there's a ton of pick potential on MDK. So if PSG gets a little bit too aggressive trying to push their lead, or more importantly, over pushes in mid lane, that's where the turn is going to happen, because generally speaking, Aurora in pro play, the biggest use I see for it is punishing AD carries on mid lane. You can cover so much ground from the river to the mid lane into locking that AD carry down, and maybe even throw a Vex ult on top of that if they're collapsing in the right way. And that's going to be their way back into this game before you have Bloodthirster or like any type of magic resist item that Betty picks up to become less burstable. Before those things happen, I think is where Mad is going to have some of their windows.
Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely agree. And there's also always that chance where, you know, LeBlanc goes a little bit too far forward in a fight, you get feared by Vex, and you get 100-0, right? I've seen that happen so many times, similar to Lissandra in the old days when that was the counter picks, and Maokai and all these champions that can land that CC, lock you down. MDK, lots of support from the crowd here today, and of course every day when they do play here in the LCS. 14 hours, that's some commitment, and we'll see if MDK can reward you with the series win here for the travel. But PSG gonna have a thing or two to say about that, looking to claim their spot themselves and upset the home crowd.
The small advantage that Mad talked about playing in their home studio gets more nullified the more that PSG gets to play on the stage, if that makes sense.
More comfortable,
I feel like PSG has found their comfort throughout this series. I think they were even uncomfortable on day one when they played against Pain from the CB LoL. Had some very jittery moments. Someone called them throws in game one and game two, but in a very small amount of control early on here in game three.
Yep, absolutely. PSG looking pretty comfortable. Skarner also can be difficult to play into, you know, for champions like the Vex. You know, you're going for that ultimate. You fly on in. If you get ulted up, you can get locked down.
Oh, we have grubs.
Very difficult. Grubs here on the menu. It is Fresskowy very far away. He is walking up, and we can see Supa is actually playing for mid lane prio. PSG have first move. They're going to be able to get this. It looks like they're just going to call off the play. MDK think, you know what, we don't have the positioning. Let's not risk it. Myrwn is going to be forced over the wall there by Azhi. And slow and steady, the grubs will finally go down. You can see JunJia hasn't even used his smite, so there's no chance that Elyoya can walk in and just like steal 180 for free. So it is likely to be another game with no void mites.
Yeah, another trade. I actually really like MDK not going for that. They didn't have first setup, and they're able to get a full wave and a plate for Fresskowy. Keeping the Vex ahead of the LeBlanc in the curve of the game is actually incredibly important, something that Quid was unable to do yesterday.
Oh, JunJia did allow himself to be spotted. He stepped out of that brush, and so Elyoya immediately walks over behind Myrwn, so there's not going to be any sort of an angle for a dive. It does keep that safety, though, for the Corki. Ward expires, but not before actually spotting JunJia. I'm not sure if he's aware of that, but both junglers are recalling, so probably neither one really cares to stop their recall to actually interrupt the other.
Let's look at some of these items coming in, though, because I think the timer is very real for MDK. We have Bloodthirster completed, so Bloodthirster plus shields for the Misfortune is going to be very important. You also have the Hex Drinker completed for Corki, and magic resist items or just a ton of health, as you see on the Skarner with the Heartsteel. So the only one that's really burstable right now is Maple, because he's the one with no magic resist items, but overall the durability is starting to stack up for PSG.
Yeah, it's interesting to see the Heartsteel actually, you know, even with the Aftershock, you know, almost always, you know, when you see Aftershock, that does signify that they're going to go towards those support items, but he is going for more that kind of greedier scaling build. Feels that he is going to be able to get a lot of value out of that, as Maple playing around on the side, looking to push Elyoya out, but Elyoya unperturbed by the threat here of that LeBlanc. Does have the Ludens completed, so the damage starting to ramp up here as they are pushing in the wave. And Fresskowy on the move, trying to lay a bit of a trap here for Maple, who is aware that he's been spotted, but even if you're going for this sort of trade, if you can't kill him, you're just going to lose your wave. So the trade not really meaning too much, but Woody in the pit right now. It could be a fight over the dragon. JunJia getting a bit of damage down onto Alvaro there. We can see Azhi as well as Myrwn up towards that top lane. And we'll have to see if either team has the confidence to start the dragon up. For now, it looks like no.
Yeah, I think it's a stall, mainly because Azhi has teleport, Myrwn doesn't, yet it was Mad that controlled the river. So both teams have to be afraid of doing the thing, and we end up just running back to lanes.
Can be difficult to be first starting that dragon, of course. Maple doesn't quite take that tower shot. Excuse me, it looks like it did follow him after he distorted back. JunJia now feeling confident to start this up as MDK on a recall. JunJia will do this quite slowly as the Skarner, but does have teammates around if he needs them. Betty has push in mid, and they do a push with Maple in bot, who now ticks over to level 11. Those ultimates so important for LeBlanc as you get higher and higher level, especially once you get up to 16. The CDR gets so low on that ulti. That's when you can really start becoming that really frustrating poke champion, softening people up. And if you're really playing it well with the Corki, you can potentially knock people low enough that they can't even find a fight. As Azhi looking to get behind Myrwn here, we do see he's
suspicious.
He's spotted now. You can see the pings did come out. Woody's up in the area, but so is Alvaro, and is going to spot him as Elyoya takes the Herald, and they could look to try to drop this up.
They got a lot of people up here. Maple is going to like to take that bottom turret on his own, so PSG might just decide to back away.
Yeah, there's 5 here. I mean, they have to back away, I think, if they get this information, and they did with that ward in the Tri-Brush, thankfully for them. It is a turret taken down on bot side, and now that ward, again, getting so much value, spots Supa moving down towards mid, so now they can actually move back in. They don't even have to give up the tower.
Really nice patience there from PSG in a much more measured Game 3 than we've seen in either Game 1 or Game 2. Pressure's on here. Just a reminder, winner goes to the Swiss stage, and that Corki has a huge advantage on against Myrwn's Aurora. I think also this snapshot was from 14 minutes, so Maple getting that solo turret in the bottom lane actually does put him ahead now by the entire value of that turret and the wave he took. So he's like 600 gold up on the Vex.
Yep, 623 gold ahead. So
both solo lanes ahead once again.
It's also very interesting to me. I think this can be quite risky. Maple elected not to go Mertreads, so no tenacity does mean if you do get caught by that fear, pretty much guaranteed you're going to be comboed with CC and you're going to be burst down. So this is high risk, high reward. I'm not saying it's objectively wrong or anything like that, because of course Spell Pen is valuable. You can really threaten Fresskowy, Supa, Myrwn as well, who all have very little or no MR at this point. But if he gets CC'd and dies 100-0, that's a way in for MDK, and it's definitely a lot easier to do it. Oh, has to flash out of the Vex ulti. And that's Betty now with no flash, which is going to mean next objective gets it that much more difficult.
He's definitely going to be a target. He's going to have big shields, though. He will be pretty difficult to take down, as Skarner is going for a play onto Alvaro. He's kind of alone.
He's just trying to actually stack up the Heartsteel. Looks like he really overestimated his strength here. Gets knocked away, but JunJia just gives him a freebie. MDK will take it. Woody has to flash out as well. That was a bit much there from JunJia. It looked like he just wanted to get a Heartsteel stack. Didn't think they could mess with him. Maybe didn't realize how many MDK members are in the area, but that cost them so much. It's a flash of your support. It's you dying. It's your mid lane tower.
Oh, double charge if they want it.
To get a tiny bit of health, and they're going to get the charge in here. Azhi is in and around. Maple trying to get some damage down, doesn't quite have enough, and the Distort is going to be forced back there by Alvaro as he goes for the combo.
So, interesting little interaction there. They didn't take advantage of it. They could have had the double Herald charge, because if you run into the Herald as a turret's dying, it's actually going to get another charge after you crash it. So they could have hit the turret, jump back in, hit the turret again, and killed it, but they decided to back up.
Maple going to look for Myrwn. We'll see if he can find it. Goes between two worlds, tries to snap back, was hit by the Weirding, so slows him up, does get out of there. Nicely done by Myrwn, who is very squishy on this Aurora. And Maple likely would have had him if it was any sort of extended fight. So Myrwn definitely using that discretion, better part of valor in this case, to get out of there.
So I'm sure a lot of people are wondering, what was JunJia thinking? It must have been some level of just get a Heartsteel stack because he thought it was safe.
It's very satisfying when you hear the sound.
So bad.
The sound is very satisfying. It's
now
crazy.
They're invading his Gromp.
Yeah, JunJia gonna land the Impale onto Alvaro, not even actually having to pop the ultimate until just now. Maybe waited too long to do so, as Azhi is chasing after him. He has the flash. Is he gonna have to use it? Now flash is way too late. Alvaro makes a big mistake, and now Supa's caught. Maple is there. The cleanse comes out. Can he actually get out? Maple trying to finish him off. He doesn't have the damage. He's got to wait for the spells. The True Shot Barrage doesn't actually finish him off. He gets over the wall. The Ignite is there, but he predicts him. He gets the kill. JunJia trades it back, though. Now trying to go forward. What a scrappy fight there. Supa, with the outplay on a Maple, makes it a little bit more even.
What a save there by Supa. This whole time, Myrwn has been free hitting this top turret and is going to recover himself a bit in this game by getting that solo gold. It really felt like JunJia was a little bit out of sorts, but they turned that around so well onto Alvaro. The game is completely neck and neck now, Azael.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Alvaro really wanted to hold on to his ultimate. He thought he could walk it out, thought he could actually get out of there without spending the resources, but got way too greedy. And you can see, if he just pops the ult early, he probably just walks out of there no problem, but instead he waits so long. Azhi gets him incredibly low, then he pops in, it's too late. Yeah,
I think it was definitely meant to be a steal and run away. He's also incredibly close to escaping this, except the auto attack was already queued to follow him. And then Supa with such a narrow escape on the back end. First off, he misses the center of the Leona by like a frame, then dashing into the pit and just waiting for Maple to pop over for that execute on a sliver of health was so clutch.
It was really nice anticipation there as Alvaro now trying to find Azhi, who does have to flash out of it.
Stash.
And so nice flash, but it is that resource down. It's just great prediction from Supa. He knows that he's going to try to come over the wall. He knows the angle he's going to come from. And if you don't predict that, you're dead. So why not take the flip? He is able to find him. Great stuff from the MDK AD carry, who I think has been playing so well for them. Was massive in the last series on the Jinx, and now 1,000 gold ahead of where Betty is at this point. Has the 2 kills. He's in a position to carry. MDK have basically drawn the gold right back to even as Fresskowy takes the tower down on bot side. Myrwn, nice little chunk of damage out onto Maple as he took the top lane tier 1 as well.
Yeah, some interesting stuff happening in this game. Maple hasn't necessarily done much on his own, but he's gotten 2 turrets worth of solo gold, so he's now hit his Storm Surge and is going to be looking to pull off a lot of assassinations.
And that's great if he can actually make something happen in the fight, but if you give him all this side lane gold and he just gets CC'd up and dies, then it's not really any value.
Yeah, I would definitely have liked to see that gold going over to Azhi if you're actually able to decide which player gets the solo time in the side lane. Maw completed, he already has the kills. He's more who's going to win you the game when you're thinking sustained damage versus a burst team, rather than just like a burst guy against a couple other burst guys. A couple things that I have qualms with that, not to mention, I'm okay with the Sork shoes, but I would really love just, so many people aren't willing to do this against double AP, just 1 null magic. Just sit on it, because it would reduce their damage by so much.
Especially when it's these burst champions that it's like, if you survive the burst, you can really change that fight. Azhi, of course, has no tier, so he's not scaling up in that way. There's not going to be a Myrwn or anything like that coming in. So that is going to throw a little bit of a wrench in the gears as far as the scaling is concerned. But, of course, Corki's still going to be pretty strong in the late game. Mana can become a little bit of an issue when you do these types of builds, so maybe actually going to need things like blue buff or even like an Essence Reaver or something later in the game, but we'll see if there is one of those games where it becomes the long kind of standoff fights where you're poking a lot, because that's where this build could be problematic.
Ooh, Maple missed the start of that chain, otherwise I think that was a kill, or at least a forced flash onto Fresskowy. I'd say PSG should be in control, but I don't think they necessarily feel like they're in control. That's a little bit based off of JunJia's earlier play on Skarner. But they are able to move in and bully their way to clear some vision around Baron.
I mean, the game is really on a knife's edge. Honestly, I think it's just going to come down to the plays. Who's actually able to show up in these fights. It's a couple hundred gold, either way. Yeah. And there's so many X-Factor style champions. Can LeBlanc find that pick? Can Fresskowy get a reset and burst someone out? Find a good angle to get in on Betty and kill him off. Anything like that is going to completely change the fight to the point where I don't think the gold or the items really matter that much. Everything is close enough that it's just down to execution. And you're waiting for that player to really show up in this big moment here and secure their spot in the Swiss stage. Both teams looking to do it. Of course, this is the final game of the series if you are just tuning in. Whoever loses is not out of it. They will have another chance. Alvaro going to get caught. Pops the ulti, but he pops it too early that time and gets stunned up by Woody's ultimate right after. Unfortunately, didn't have the timing. It is a freebie, but will they have the confidence to actually start the Baron or do anything with this?
I mean, that's the type of stuff that can decide these series. You could see Myrwn showed on bot wave. There was a brief numbers advantage for PSG, and they had a lot of abilities to pull the trigger there. I don't think they're getting anything out of it this early on into the game. I'd also say the scar tissue from how this series has gone is affecting both teams. You don't want to just start Baron when you have the advantage and look to peel, because that's gone wrong much more than it's gone right today.
Oh, JunJia looking for an angle. Fresskowy, wise to his tricks, is going to back it up there. You can see Corki taking the blue buff down on the bottom side, so not going to have to worry about mana for quite some time. Both these mid laners are going to be very explosive if they can land those full combos. Both of them playing the double buffed items on this patch. Ludens plus Storm Surge. Storm Surge so much stronger now. It's way easier to proc. This item is incredibly powerful. And there is the Verdant Barrier.
There it is.
There you go. As well as an additional little bit of MR there over on Betty, who did grab a Null Magic Mantle. Some MR even coming out on Woody. So
they did it.
Your wish, is there a...
They did exactly what I wanted them to do. It looks like Skarner's going over for Steric's Gauge as well. The only last thing, which I know they can't actually do at this point, is I would have liked to see supportive items on Skarner this game. Since their carries scale so well, if he goes Knight's Vow as his second item.
Just like Locket is so good against this kind of burst too.
Yeah, 2 Lockets might be overkill, but probably not, honestly, because Woody's going to have his soon. JunJia could have his already, but they built MR on everyone. That's more than I see a lot of the time. So it actually makes them a lot stronger in this game and kind of makes it so MDK have to play that much cleaner.
I'd just say it's more pressure on Supa, but it's someone who can take that pressure, and we'll see if he can really carry through in this game. He's been great thus far, is in a good spot here on 2.5 items on the Ezreal. If everyone's building MR and you're the sole real physical threat, then that's great for you. We'll see if he can show up and really make it happen here for the team. Has done so already a number of times and looking to continue with that. Azhi, though, coming off a great Gnar game, is set up for success on this Corki and quietly scaling away. Level 15 on both the solo laners here for PSG. They have that XP advantage, and they're going to look to use it.
But I think we're going to see our first big fight here. How important is the Jarvan and the Aurora ult going to be in the river? And crucially, can Vex land the ultimate onto Maple?
Oh, Maple, the Q flash! He gets caught out and he gets feared up. Is he going to go down? No, not just yet.
They got him.
The ultimate comes through. They finish him off. The bullet time over the top, and the Impale comes out. Fresskowy's in trouble. Fresskowy is down. Woody's down on the other side. It's Azhi trying to make it happen, but it's Azhi with no chance in hell. Alvaro with the massive play. It's the Q flash, finding Maple and deciding the fight.
That might be the series winner. They get the CC onto Maple, they land the Vexar, and they actually get the burst down. They're going to get a huge lead off this because nobody's stopping this Baron.
What a play from Alvaro. Has been so good for the team. You talk about those X-Factor champions. He was there to make it happen. Maple took a lot to kill, but he had no offensive contribution to the fight because he's always on the run. The Locket nearly kept him alive, but then the Cataclysm came from Elyoya. It was great stuff there from MDK, and let's watch it one more time, Jatt.
Maple trying to get some pre-fight poke
Look at
in,
that.
but it's so fast that Alvaro gets that CC. It's chained with the Vex CC, and then Elyoya comes in over the top. And then, at that point, even though there's been a lot of cooldowns, it is a 4v5, and Azhi is only starting to do damage now when the fight is basically decided. So not only could they burn everything on LeBlanc, there wasn't 2 carries returning fire at the end of that fight.
Absolutely, and PSG just not really ready for it to actually, try to get something going. Even when they did get the Betty ultimate out, the Impale came out afterwards. So by the time he actually pulled Fresskowy in with the Impale, the bullet time had ended. And now MDK are going to be cleaning up so much on the map, including the Skarner, who's just food for the Lions. They're pushing forward, looking to put the finishing touches on this game. We'll see if they can do it, as JunJia was just way too far out trying to solo defend a tower. You got no shot at doing that, and now they have no shot at defending the mid lane inhibitor. They probably have no shot at defending the top lane inhibitor as well. This game just swung so far in MDK's favor.
I mean, some questionable decisions from JunJia. They just need to withstand this Baron. MDK getting a Giga Baron power play off of this one. It's going to be at least 5K gold.
Yeah, it's going to be massive for them. Both those inhibitors are gone. MDK now going to have full run of the map here. They are taking over off of one play from their support. The big star so far, it feels like, at Worlds. This guy has been showing up in so many moments for the team. A rookie here for MDK, but he doesn't look like it.
6-2. Gonna have his 4th item completed very soon. He's so incredibly fed, ahead of the curve, where Betty, even Azhi is, despite getting so much solo attention earlier on in this game. And this last swing is just so extreme. I mean, it really did feel like PSG was going to be in control of this game, building a lot of magic resist to withstand that last fight. But then not only after MDK took the Baron, PSG just couldn't even get in position to defend. They were so spread out around the map, and potentially, again, Skarner might be caught.
Oh, nice impale, though, actually catches out Alvaro. Can they actually burst him down? The ultimate's making him so tanky, but he has gone a bit too far.
Wow.
JunJia there turning it around onto Alvaro, does get a kill, but the Baron buff's still here for 30 seconds. Already nearly a 4,000 gold Baron power play there. The goal just slingshotting them into the lead from what was a pretty good spot for PSG from almost the entire game. Now Shojin completed on Corki, so Corki is 16, has those 3 items done as well for Maple, and we'll see if he can make something happen. Supa in some trouble. The rocket's landing on the side. The bullet time is there, gonna force the flash. Woody trying to look for more. Can they actually get the chase down? Doesn't look like it. MDK will get out alive at the cost of the flash from Supa.
That ultimate actually could have enough damage, very close. So third inhib is able to be defended by PSG. I think that's what MDK would have loved to have in a perfect world. Now it's about 3 minutes of free farm for PSG as they can continue to scale up. I think the game's at a really interesting point because PSG seems very out of sorts. That's been a huge spike of gold for MDK because they're finding the picks that they need to find. But I'll still say it's not over yet.
No.
If Supa ends up getting caught, then there will be almost no damage to take down the rest of PSG, who's all building a bunch of magic resist. So the gold's only going to be probably about 2K by the time the next Baron will be up. There's nowhere near a soul for MDK. No. So if PSG is actually like really patient, then I think they have a higher chance of winning this game than if they try and contest the next Drake.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I don't think they need to come out of their base for the Drake. You know, the question is, can Maple actually ever get anything done in the fight? I just think it's going to be so hard for him on the LeBlanc. Yeah. You really do struggle against these types of teams. We saw it there. It wasn't even Fresskowy. It was the Alistar, as Myrwn trying to jump out is able to narrowly avoid the stun there from Woody and get out to safety. Maple has the gold lead for PSG, so you know if you're not counting him, they're actually even more behind. So he needs to have an effect in this game. He needs to be able to find that big pick, but it's so difficult to do because you need to put yourself at risk to make it happen. But if you do that, you can get CC'd up, burst down, and just like we saw in that previous team fight, if the team is not all there to support you when it happens, it's an instant loss, and it's MDK taking full advantage.
And it also looks like MDK is going to be going for a reset, so their assault of that final inhibitor turret is going to end here. It does leave the door open a little bit. I don't think they could have overforced on that, especially after Myrwn got taken so low. So I do think it's going to be just as we said about that 2,000 gold lead going into the next major objective contest, but it's more about the vision and the way that PSG is actually going to be able to get back on the map, and if they can, that will decide whether MAD move on to the Swiss stage.
Absolutely. I mean, whether or not they want to contest the Dragon, the Baron's going to be up in about 20 seconds after that does spawn, and they definitely don't want to give over a free Baron. So
I think they want to stop the Baron, and they're going to give the Drake. That's probably why Woody's here. They're already getting a little bit of shallow vision in their own red side jungle.
But I do like the MDK are doing it this way. You can just send Myrwn down there. You can just slowly solo out that Dragon, right? You don't even need him. So keep the other members out here to defend vision, to make the job harder for PSG. Don't allow PSG in to get any sort of big play. Betty, he's pretty far forward. He can actually get picked by Aurora if he's not careful. They have no vision on the sides.
Myrwn's got the flank.
Okay, Myrwn is going to back off. Of course, could have looked for an angle, but the rest of the team wasn't really in position. Now they are, though. Fresskowy is there with the team. All 5 members of MDK in the area here, as the Baron is going to be starting to spawn. Alvaro chunked out by Maple. Azhi coming down to rejoin the rest of the members on the team. They have some vision on Myrwn, so they're aware that he is there. Betty has got to be careful, but it's a stun over onto Elyoya. Nice buffer on the flag and drag. JunJia gonna go in, does find Alvaro. He's gonna pull back. The flash in from Alvaro, trying to turn around as they impale there. The bullet time comes through, but it's Elyoya going into the back line between worlds. Azhi's getting nothing done. He's not even in the fight. He's over the side. He can't do anything, and he's just gonna watch as the team falls. Maple goes into the back line, but Supa's alive, and Supa has something to say about that. Trying to chase after Maple. He's on the run. Azhi's trying to survive as well. They need to survive or the game is over. Azhi trying to get out of there. Myrwn is not going to let it happen. Catches him with the slow, chasing him down. Azhi, the last hope here for PSG, as Supa has killed off Maple. That should probably do it, but Azhi's still alive. Now Supa chasing up after him. There's just no way out. Supa hits him with the Mystic Shot. MDK win the fight, and MDK are going to be heading to the Swiss stage.
What a series by the MDK bot lane. Supa and Alvaro clutched up.
You said it, MDK's key members in the bot lane showing up when it mattered most, being the difference makers for the team. Alvaro with the picks when it all came down to it. MDK outplay in the fights, take down PSG, and are the first team through from play-ins to the Swiss stage.
Smiles all around. Elyoya, such a solid Jarvan game here in the end. 2-0 and 11, giving support to the rest of the team. And you gotta say, in terms of your goals going into play-in, that's job done.
Yep.
They won both series. They only dropped one game. They got the stage experience. They got the meta experience. When you actually do make it through play-ins, I find you are stronger than if you had just been granted Swiss stage. You just have to incur the risk of playing the games to begin with. So this is a great start to Worlds for MDK.
Absolutely. These 4 rookies here making it happen for the LEC, making it happen for Europe. Can be proud of their performance so far. Job accomplished, first step accomplished. Now we'll see what they can get done at that Swiss stage. But you said it,